Module 1 Lecture 6 The Foreign. This group has been called the foreign because all four letters in this group do not share any familiarity with English letter sounds. Some are rounded versions of Arabic letters that you've already come across, and others are completely alien to the vocal range of an English speaker. The first letter that we have in this group is called Ta. The Ta is one of the four rounded letters discussed earlier on. The letter Ta has that same balloon-shaped circle that sits on the line pointing northeast, but instead of a tail hanging below it, as in Saad and Dad, it has a vertical line that goes upwards to about twice the height of the circle. The sound that it produces is essentially a rounded version of the Ta that we encountered earlier on. Hopefully, you have gained some idea of how to create that rounded sound from letters such as Saad and Dad. But just in case you've forgotten, here's a reminder. You want to compress your lips as you would when whistling, for example. Then, whilst holding that position throughout, say the letter Ta. If you've done it right, it should give out a rounded Ta sound. Have you ever been to Arab lands and taken a look at a mosque? Or perhaps you've seen one within your local area that has been traditionally built. The Ta reminds me of that traditional mosque whereby the circle represents the dome and the vertical line, the minaret. Whenever I see a minaret, I'm always amazed by how tall it is. The T in the word tall reminds me of the Ta sound in the letter Ta. Practice. Ta. 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 The next letter that we have in this group is called Dha. The letter Dha is identical to the letter Ta in appearance, except with the addition of a dot placed above it. The sound that it produces is a rounded Dhal sound that we encountered earlier on. It's important that you really get used to the rounded sound, so please do look at the earlier descriptions of it and take time to listen to the letter as often as you can. Dha. We said that the letter Ta was the tall minaret beside the dome of a mosque. Let's pretend the little dot is the sun having reached its zenith. Use the Z in zenith to give you an approximation of the Dha sound in Dha. It's only an approximation because the Z sound has already been encountered in the letter Z, so we don't want to mix the two up. Practice. Dha. 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 The next letter that we have in this group is called Ayn. The Ain is an interesting letter and one of the most difficult to pronounce. Its appearance consists of what looks like a number 8 that has been chopped in half, where the bottom semicircle hangs below the line whilst the top half sits on the line. To best understand the sound that it produces, you will need to really listen carefully and keep practicing the letter almost until your throat begins to hurt. It's as if you are strangling yourself, gently, and thereby constricting the air passage within your throat. You then say, ah, with a deep, throaty tone. Go ahead, try it by placing your hands on your throat and constricting the air slightly. If you're uncomfortable with that approach, try lowering your chin until it touches your chest. Then, whilst maintaining your chin in that position, open your mouth, constrict the air in your throat, and say, ah. Be sure to drink a glass of water after all those exercises. The appearance of the Ain reminds me of a fat man sitting and leaning against a wall, with the top half being his head and the bottom half his protruding stomach. I simply envisage this man doing exactly what we just described as the way to produce the Ain sound. That is, he is sitting there, chin touching the chest, saying, ah. Practice. Ain. Ah. Ain. Ah. Ain. Ah. The final letter that we have in this group is called Ghain. The Ghain looks exactly the same as the letter Ain, except that it has a dot that sits above it. The sound that it produces is pretty much the sound you hear when gargling. So, begin by gargling for a minute or so, and pay close attention to the r sound that you hear. It's the r that makes the Ghain sound. If you're familiar with French, then you'll know that the Ghain is equivalent to the R sound in many French words like revoir in au revoir. Let's stay with our man leaning against the wall and imagine him needing a glass of water after all the Ain practice. He sips a bit, gargles, and spits it all out. That spittle is represented by the dot on top of the letter. Practice. Ghain. Gh. Ghain. Gh. Ghain. Gh.